Hey everybody, welcome back, and thank you. I think today's episode is going to put a smile on your face, and it's going to make you want to run out the door and charge through a wall and conquer the world, because that's what Austin Byler does when he speaks to people. He motivates them, he inspires them, and I'm happy to have had an hour to spend with him talking about life. He's really just an awesome human being to spend time with, be around, just draw energy from. He's really a remarkable person, and I'm not going to say anymore because he does it well enough on his own. So we get in and we talk about some stuff that matters in this podcast, and we talk about his life and what he's doing with Major League University and how he's coaching up kids and adolescents and college age students in their sports, and that's all well and good. But really, the takeaway I think is that positivity matters, and negativity needs to just get checked at the door. So I hope you enjoy it. Austin's a good dude. Podcast, as always, is sponsored by Zephyr Wellness and Audible. I'm super proud to have Audible on board as a sponsor. You can get a free trial for 30 days if you go to audibletrial.com/noggin-notes and check out what they have to offer, which is really incredible. It's overwhelming. You'll never consume all the content they have. But you do get a free download if you sign up for a free trial. Go to audibletrial.com/noggin-notes. Get your free 30-day trial. Keep whatever it is that you downloaded, whether it's a book or a news commentary or some sort of entertainment otherwise. You keep that even if you don't maintain your membership. So audibletrial.com/noggin-notes. And then, of course, you know my company, zephyrwellness.org. You can go there and check out even more content that we put out in the interwebs for free so that you can go help improve your life if you so choose. And if you want clinical services, we got those too. We take insurance, we take cash, and we also do it online because that's what you do in a pandemic when everybody's working from home. You go get really good at doing online therapy, and it turns out we have a lot of studies and research that show that it's in some cases even better than in-person therapy. So if you like the Zoom thing and you want some counseling help, check out zephyrwellness.org, and maybe we'll be able to set you up with an appointment. Until then, enjoy this podcast and my interview with Austin Byler. Have a good one, everybody. Hello, everybody. Thanks for checking us out again. We appreciate listening audiences. And this week we have Austin Byler. You guys might remember him from, probably a year and a half ago now, when the last time we talked at least on the podcast. Hey, Austin.
Jake, how are we doing, man? I'm fired up. It has been at least a year, maybe a little longer. I got to do the math, but it was.
I want to say it was like January of 19, and now we're recording this in June of 20. It was somewhere thereabouts, I want to say, because I was definitely in Lovelock when I was talking to you, and it's been a minute since I've been out there. But man, it's good to see your smiling face, bro. I miss you.
Good to see you too, man. I'm pumped up. This is awesome.
I miss your energy. Thankfully, you're ever present online. You're always posting videos on Instagram, and we'll definitely tell people how to connect with you after this. But for those of you who may not be familiar or who haven't listened to the podcast, go back and listen to the podcast with me and Austin Byler. That's it. No more information. No, just kidding. No, Austin and I first talked about his journey through like addiction and then recovery, and how he's teaching children, adolescents and youth, the mental aspect of baseball. And we talked about CBD oil, and we talked about spirituality, and it was a really broad ranging podcast, but it was very, very inspiring and very uplifting. And I expect no different this time around because you're an inspiring, uplifting individual. So no pressure. Just make sure you leave the audience better off than you found them. But give a little bit of an update on what your life is like. I know you've been through some pretty dramatic changes lately, and share whatever you feel like sharing right now, and then we'll kick off with some Q&A and conversation.
Sweet, man. Yeah, I feel like this is hopefully a better version of Anchorman 2, where I'm following up the first one, man, where we're good. But basically, yeah, man. So the first podcast was a lot of fun, and just being on here, man, getting to see you after that. I believe we went up to Reno, got to do something that summer, and spend some time there. But Everything's been crazy. I remember, in February, I left the day job that I was working, which was probably the best day job opportunity you could ever have if you had a regular job and you wanted to just stay comfortable and like stick with what you want to do. But like we've talked about a lot, I have a burning passion for helping athletes through the mental side of sports and really helping them develop into leaders in society, more than just what the game presents you, but using those tools and other tools for life to be successful in life and helping other people. So, and in February, right before the whole pandemic hit, I decided to take that leap of faith. And then in that next month, I was rewarded very, very well. It was weird how like once I stopped and like cut one thing out of my life, like God began to bring other things and opportunities into my life, or maybe I just shifted my perspective to see them, or he did for me. But then the pandemic hit, and then it was like, okay, all these events that you worked to set up all summer are now shut down and not good. So there's been a lot of halftime adjusting, man. It's been really good. It's been a great learning opportunity. And then, man, it's been a big time blessing. But I remember talking to you before I made the decision, I think twice, and long car rides. I remember one of them, I was sitting in traffic on the Golden Gate Bridge. And
I
I'm
remember
like,
you saying that.
dude, it was the longest 50-minute traffic I've ever sat in, but it was the greatest call because it helped clarify things for me. And I think just when you're making big decisions, it's important to ask people that you trust in those situations who have made those decisions as well. And you shared some great information with me and knowledge and wisdom, and it helped lead to that decision, man. So thank you. Without even knowing that, I'm thanking you.
I appreciate you saying that. That means a lot. You know, and we might want to pause there because I think that I have a lot of those types of conversations with people, and I think I take them for granted. I just think I take them for granted, and I don't want to anymore. And I think it was worth pausing here to revisit that, maybe because now it's coming back to me, and I did share a couple of personal experiences that seemed to help you out quite a bit in making your decision. And I think it would benefit our listeners to hear what the logic was and the thought processes behind it. So if you don't mind, like, tell everybody what the situation was, what the predicament was, and how you're facing that tough decision, and then maybe recap a little bit of our conversation for everybody. So if there's somebody listening right now and they're in a stuck position, they can maybe get a little bit of an insight, or at least validation that they're not alone in what they're stuck with, and that there are at least two guys, you and me right now, who've faced similar tough decisions, made a decision, and then things open up for them. So start wherever you want, your story.
Yeah, no, it was so since April of last year, so about a year ago, I was working at a company called E-Team Sponsor. So I was an account manager, had a great opportunity there to help. We were helping athletic programs fundraise money. So it was a great opportunity, great leadership. It was an awesome environment for sure, especially for the first real job other than an Orange Theory fitness coach. And that, so I don't really consider that a real job, but it was fun and it was awesome. But this was a different type of deal. It was like, okay, I'm sitting at a desk. I had to make calls. I had certain numbers and quotas I had to hit, and it was just different. And for me, I had the burning desire, like I mentioned earlier, to help athletes and to help people live their best life. And I had my company, Major League University, which started about a year before this, in the works, trying to grow, but it's like really tough to grow it when you're working a full-time job. And then you're in the Bay Area at the time where the traffic is outrageous. So you got 2 hours of commute you got to factor in, and then life in general. So it was a tough balance act for about 7 or 8 months. And then ever since about October, November, I really had like a hardcore passion to leave, but I didn't know what I was going to do, and I didn't trust it at all. So about 4 months in a row, I went back and forth in my mind of, do I leave this job? Do I stay here? Do I leave it? Do I stay here? The people are amazing. The pay is great to have coming in every month. Or do I leave, take a leap of faith, and have limited pay right now, but hope that when I leave, I get more pay because I can put more effort into this. And I was rattled, to be honest. Like, I was just going back and forth, swimming in my own dome. And that's where having a conversation with you, and I'll kind of revert back to the most recent one that you experienced with running for politics, running for office, and getting into that realm and fundraising money and doing all these crazy things, but then realizing how unhappy you were in that. Yes, it may have looked great. Yes, it may have felt great at some points and maybe been a desire for you, but it wasn't what your calling was and what you really enjoyed. And you mentioned once you left and you got out of that environment, you were so much happier. Your wife said it, your family noticed it, your friends noticed it. a lot of people notice how much more happier and at peace you were. And I even heard on the phone from a conversation a couple months before when you were in that situation too, when you were counseling me and what I was kind of going through and personally. So that really stuck out to me. It was like, hey, if the feeling is that strong in your heart, go with your intuition. Like, trust your intuition, trust your feelings. Yes, you got to make an educated decision sometimes, and it's not easy at all. The hardest thing in the world, especially when you can't foresee a pandemic hitting the month after.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you really want to push for that dream or that next opportunity, you think there's more out there for you, make sure that you don't let that opportunity pass. And for me being young, I was like, I got to go. I can't keep sitting here. I love the people there. I hate telling people no. I hate breaking up with anyone, but it had to happen. It really did. And it's been the greatest thing in my life ever since.
That's awesome. I think there's a lot of people who, we call it an ego state in, psychological terms, where you just stay in what's comfortable and familiar. And it's not always necessarily comfortable in terms of like actual comfort, feels good, want to stay there. It's just what you know really well. And it's why we stay in jobs longer than we probably want to or even should. It's why we stay in relationships longer than we want to or should. It's why we stay in habits, longer than we would like to or should. And it's all because it's the way I explain it is that the power of the fear of the unknown is much stronger than the misery of the present. And I'm not even saying that what you were doing was miserable. It was just like, it was difficult, right? You're like, I have this great thing, it's right in front of me, and yet something's missing. So for some people, it really is miserable. They're drinking too much, or they're violent, or they got all this anger, and they're losing friends over it. And yet that misery is so much easier to stick in because it's what they know. It's very, very, very challenging to let go of what you know for something that you don't know, because the mystery of the unfamiliar is very, very strong, strong enough to keep us where we are. So, to be quite honest, I forgot that it was around that time that I stopped the campaign. For the listening audience, I haven't talked about this in the podcast. I did have a 4-month or so long stint where I was going to run for state assembly here in Nevada, and it was really, like, overwhelmingly, the experience was quite positive, but the timing could not have been worse. And that's what Austin is referencing, is that when I decided to stop, it was very disappointing to a lot of people. And yet simultaneously, those same people were like, I totally get it. So I had validation going out the door, and that was a major decision. What I thought you were going to reference was the decision to start Zephyr, because that's really analogous to what you're doing. Is you started your own company. I mean, you had it going, but you really just like plunged in both feet. And it's really hard to straddle two endeavors, both of which require your full-time commitment. One is the job, and then the other is the other job. And so I'm really proud of you for making that decision. I tried as hard as I could not to push you one way or another. And you just let your own inner spirit guide you. And it's totally worked out. It's absolutely worked out. And I think that what's not to be understated is not just the compensation and all that stuff. Cause like, there's definitely ways we can, if it were about compensation, we could all go into, pharmaceutical sales and make a grip of cash. Right. But it's not about that. It's about the liberty and the autonomy of making one's own life. And there is no compensation that can ever stack up to that type of freedom. So I know that you're feeling that now. You don't have to answer to anybody but yourself and your couple of partners, but you guys are all on the same page, and you're doing what you want, which is great. And I want you to talk a little bit about that. So the pandemic hits, and describe MLU for us. Major League University is what you do. You've got a couple of other things going on. We'll get to them in a minute. But as I understand it, with my feeble brain and the way that I can explain it, like Denzel Washington once said, explain it to me like I'm 6. You take youth baseball athletes and you teach them the mental side of sports. You're also teaching them the physical side. You're teaching them how to put their hands in front of their hat when they're fielding a ground ball, and arm position and bat position and all that stuff. But really, you're focused on mental preparation. What else do you do? And how is this structured, and how would a pandemic necessarily affect that?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. So for what we do, you're spot on with that as far as training the youth. We also work with the high school, college realms as well.
Hmm.
So we get work into those programs. So as far as what we do, there's the